He forced her to kneel, right there in front of everyone, his hand crushing her shoulder until bone met stone. The chosen Luna smiled from her throne, draped in red silk in victory. But when the elder lifted the ancient crown to place it on her head, the metal screamed. It twisted, jerked free, hit the floor and rolled impossibly deliberately straight to the Black Omega's knees. The one they'd branded, the one they'd buried, the one kneeling in the dirt. And then the throne itself, forged from 100 fallen alphas, turned, bowing toward her. The hall went silent. The alpha's hand trembled, because for the first time in 1,000 years the crown had chosen wrong. Or had it? If you believe no one should be forced to kneel just because of how they were born, subscribe to Silver Moon Chronicles. Only those who think power justifies cruelty won't. The summons arrived on charcoal gray parchment, sealed with molten iron wax that scorched Sable's fingertips the moment she touched it. She should have let it burn. Should have tossed it into the hearth and watched the Ironfang sigil, a wolf's skull crowned by blades, melt into ash. But fear, that ancient survival instinct hammered into every Omega since birth, made her break the seal instead. You are required to attend. No explanation. No signature. Just an address she knew by heart. The Ironfang fortress, perched like a predator on the mountain's edge, overlooking the territories where she'd been captured, where she'd been broken, where she'd learned that Omegas don't have names, only functions. Omegas don't disobey summons. They are punished for breathing wrong. Sable crumpled the parchment, her scarred hands shaking. The Black Omega brand on her shoulder throbbed, a permanent reminder of the night everything changed. She was 7 years old when they came. The memory burned brighter than any torch. Her village engulfed in flames, her mother's scream cut short by steel, strong hands dragging her through smoke and ash. She remembered the cold river water, her mother's final words whispered through blood-stained lips. Run! But there was nowhere to run. The Ironfang soldiers found her shivering on the riverbank at dawn. They didn't ask her name. They didn't care about the sigil burned into her mother's cloak. A black wolf with silver eyes, a symbol Sable was too young to understand. They only saw what she was, Omega, the lowest caste, born voiceless, born to obey. They branded her shoulder with hot iron, and Sable learned her first lesson in the Dominion. Screaming changes nothing. 18 years followed. 18 years of being invisible, of scrubbing blood from stone floors, of polishing armor for warriors who looked through her like glass. 18 years of enduring Commander Thorn's casual cruelty, of swallowing words until her throat became a graveyard of silence. And now Alpha Kaelstrom, the man who'd allowed it all, dared summon her like she was still his to command. The walk to the fortress took 30 minutes. 30 minutes of her stomach knotting tighter with each familiar landmark. The iron gates with their rusted wolves. The training grounds where she'd once been beaten for looking a beta in the eye. The carved archway entrance where she'd been told, Omegas are born to kneel, remember that. By the time she reached the great hall's outer doors, dusk had bled the sky into shades of bruised violet and dying emberlight. The Ironfang fortress rose from the cliffside like something forged in a nightmare. All jagged stone and blackened iron. Towering columns wrapped in red banners that snapped in the wind like bloody flags. Fire braziers blazed along the battlements, casting dancing shadows across the courtyard. The entire Dominion had gathered. Hundreds of warriors, betas, alphas, all dressed in ceremonial armor. For her replacement's coronation. 2 enforcers grabbed Sable before she reached the entrance. Their grip was iron-hard, bruising. Move, one growled. They dragged her through the massive oak doors, past rows of sneering faces, past whispers that followed her like poison. The Black Omega. Why is she here? Omegas shouldn't even be allowed inside. Sable kept her eyes down, her breath shallow. Dirt stained her worn tunic. Her hair had come loose from its knot, falling in disheveled waves around her face. She looked exactly like what they expected. Broken, worthless, beneath notice. The enforcers shoved her forward, and she stumbled, catching herself before she fell. The throne hall stretched before her, vast and suffocating. Hundreds of eyes turned to watch. The firelight made everything look like it was burning. And then he entered. Alpha Kaelstrom. The hall fell silent. He moved like a predator, tall and broad-shouldered, dark hair falling past his collar, beard trimmed close, dressed in a deep crimson and black leather coat that seemed to drink the light. Heavy boots struck the stone floor with deliberate weight. His presence filled the room, authority radiating from him like heat from a forge. Sable's breath caught. Even after 18 years, even knowing what he'd allowed to happen to her, her body still recognized the power he wielded. His storm gray eyes found her across the hall. Cold. Unreadable. Empty of recognition. He crossed the distance in seconds. His gloved hand clamped down on her shoulder, right over the brand, and shoved. Sable's knees hit the stone with a crack that echoed through the silence. Pain shot up her legs, but she didn't cry out. Omegas who cried out were punished. She kneels, Kaelstrom declared, his voice echoing off ancient stone. Before the rightful Luna of Ironfang. Sable's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. She forced herself to look up. At the throne. At her. Lumina Northcross sat on the jagged iron throne like she'd been born to it. Pale as winter snow, golden hair cascading over one shoulder. Dressed in a deep red gown that caught the firelight like blood on silk. Beautiful. Untouchable. Perfect. Everything a black Omega could never be. Lumina's lips curved into a smile, cold and sharp as a blade. All things kneel to the Luna of Ironfang, she said softly, her voice carrying through the hall like a promise of winter. The court murmured approval. Sable felt Kaelstrom's grip tighten on her shoulder, grinding bone against bone. Stay down, his grip said. Know your place. But something felt wrong. The torches along the walls flickered, unnaturally, all at once, as if touched by an invisible wind. The temperature dropped. Not gradually, but all at once, like winter had shattered through the stones. Sable's breath became visible. Frost crept across the nearest brazier. The murmurs turned uncertain. Kaelstrom's hand tensed on her shoulder. And at the front of the hall, the elder, ancient and trembling, stepped forward carrying the iron crown. Woven from the blades of fallen alphas, dark metal etched with runes older than memory, it gleamed in the firelight like a promise. Or a threat. The elder's voice shook as he began the ceremonial words. By blood and blade, by moon and bone, we crown the Luna of. The crown twitched. Just slightly. Just enough. Gasps rippled through the hall. The elder's wrinkled hands trembled harder. The crown twisted in his grip. Metal groaning like it was waking from centuries of sleep. The ancient runes began to glow. Lumina's perfect composure cracked. She leaned forward on the throne, eyes widening. Kaelstrom's grip on Sable's shoulder became painful. And the crown, sacred, ancient, absolute, writhed violently in the elder's hands like a living thing fighting to break free. The hall held its breath. The crown's light grew brighter. Brighter. Until... Hit subscribe if you believe no one should be silenced just because someone more powerful said so. Comment, everyone deserves respect. If you can't stand people like Kaelstrom who abuse their power, only those who side with bullies won't. The crown exploded from the elder's grip. Metal screamed. A shrill metallic wail that pierced through the hall like a wounded animal. The elder stumbled backward, hands empty and trembling, as the iron circlet hit the stone floor with a sound like breaking bones. Then it began to roll. Not randomly. Not aimlessly. Intentionally. The crown rolled across the polished stone floor. Runes blazing silver white, moving with impossible purpose. Past the rows of stunned warriors. Past the frozen betas. Past the elders who pressed themselves against the walls. Straight toward Sable. Time seemed to slow. She watched it come. This ancient thing that had crowned every Luna in Ironfang history. Watched it roll closer with each heartbeat, each shallow breath. No, she thought desperately. No, this is impossible. I'm nothing. Kaelstrom's hand twisted in her hair, yanking her head back so violently tears sprang to her eyes. His fingers dug into her scalp like claws. Don't you dare move, he hissed against her ear. His voice a razor-edged whisper only she could hear. The crown stopped. Right at her knees. Close enough to touch. Close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from the metal. Not burning but welcoming. Alive. The silver light pulsed in rhythm with her racing heartbeat, growing brighter with each passing second. The hall erupted in whispers. She's an Omega. How is that possible? The crown has never been wrong. Never in 1,000 years. Sable's hands trembled against the cold stone. She couldn't look away from the crown. Its runes seemed to shift and dance in the light, forming patterns she almost recognized, words she couldn't quite read. Silence. Lumina's voice cracked through the hall like a whip. The whispers died instantly. Sable forced her gaze upward. Lumina had risen from the iron throne. Her perfect composure shattered like glass. Red silk pooled around her feet as she stepped down from the dais, her pale face flushed with fury. What witchcraft is this? Lumina's voice shook. Not with fear, but with rage so pure it made the air vibrate. She is nothing. She is a black Omega, the lowest filth in the Dominion. The crown cannot, it will not. Her words cut off. Because the throne moved. A sound like wailing steel echoed through the chamber. Ancient, terrible, alive. The massive iron throne, crafted from the fused blades of 100 fallen alphas, carved with runes that predated the Dominion itself, shuddered. Dust fell from the ceiling. The floor trembled. Warriors stumbled backward, hands flying to their weapons. Elders pressed against the walls, eyes wide with terror. Even the fire in the brazier seemed to dim, as if the flames themselves were bowing. The throne groaned, metal scraping against stone in a sound that felt like the earth itself was breaking. Then it turned. Slowly, deliberately, impossibly. The entire massive seat pivoted on its base, ancient blades shifting and grinding, until it faced away from Lumina and toward Sable. Bowing. The hall exploded. The throne acknowledges her. This is blasphemy. She's cursed. The old magic. Impossible. Warriors recoiled like Sable had become poisonous. Betas scrambled away from her kneeling form. Elders staggered backward, making warding signs with their hands. Kaelstrom's grip in her hair went rigid. His breathing turned ragged against her ear. And Sable heard it. A whisper. Not outside her head but inside. A pulse that resonated through her skull, her bones, her blood. Deep. Ancient. Undeniable. Moonrend. The word felt like recognition. Like a key turning in a lock she hadn't known existed. Daughter of the silver-eyed. Blood of the lost line. Rise. Images flashed behind her eyes. Fragmented, burning. A fortress consumed by flames. A woman's scream. A sigil of a black wolf with silver eyes blazing on a torn banner. Her mother's hand, bloodied, desperate, pushing her into freezing water and whispering words Sable had spent 18 years trying to forget. You are more than they will ever let you be. Run. The crown's light pulsed brighter, and the whisper became a roar. Rise. No. The word cut through everything, through the chaos, through the ancient whisper, through the impossible reality unfolding in the throne hall. Kaelstrom's voice, barely audible, choked. His hand released her hair. She heard him take a single step backward, his heavy boots scraping against stone. No. He whispered again, and this time Sable heard something she'd never heard from the Alpha of Ironfang. Fear. Raw. Absolute. Terrified. Not you. The crown blazed silver-white, casting shadows that danced like wolves across the ancient stones. The throne groaned deeper, bowing lower. And Sable, kneeling on the cold floor with dirt on her clothes and a brand on her shoulder and 18 years of silence carved into her bones, felt something inside her wake up. Subscribe if you believe people deserve to know the truth about who they really are, no matter who tried to hide it. Comment. The truth always rises if you can't stand people like Kaelstrom who bury others to protect themselves. Only cowards and liars won't. Kaelstrom's hand clamped around Sable's arm like an iron shackle. Move. He hauled her to her feet with brutal force, dragging her away from the glowing crown, away from the bowing throne, away from the hall full of witnesses who'd just seen the impossible. Sable's legs barely worked. Her mind reeled, still echoing with that ancient whisper. Moonrend. Daughter. Rise. Wait, I don't understand. She gasped as Kaelstrom yanked her through a side doorway into a shadowed corridor. The moment they were out of sight, he slammed her against the stone wall. His face was inches from hers, eyes blazing with fury, and something else. Something that looked like panic. What did you do? He snarled. What kind of spell did you cast? What manipulation? Nothing. Sable's voice cracked. I swear I didn't. I don't know what happened. Don't lie to me. His grip tightened until she felt bone grinding against bone. The crown doesn't react like that. The throne doesn't move. Not for an Omega. Not for you. I'm telling the truth. Tears burned her eyes, from pain, from terror, from the overwhelming wrongness of everything. I didn't do anything. I'm nobody, I'm nothing, I'm just. The words died in her throat, because the memory hit her like a physical blow. Fire. Screaming. The smell of burning wood and blood. She was 7 years old again. Small hands clutching her mother's cloak as the world burned around them. Warriors in iron armor cutting down everyone she'd ever known. Her mother, beautiful, fierce, with eyes that glowed silver in the firelight, fighting desperately to reach the gates. Sable, run. The fortress crumbling. Flames consuming the black wolf banners that flew from every tower. That sigil. A wolf with silver eyes burning into ash. Her mother dragging her toward the river. Blood pouring from a wound in her side. Pushing Sable into the freezing water with trembling hands. You are the last, do you understand? The last of the Moonrend line. They can never know. Run, my daughter. Run and forget everything. Then her mother's scream cut short by steel. The memory released her. Sable gasped, her vision clearing to find Kaelstrom staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. You remember, he said quietly. Not a question. A statement. Something cold slithered down Sable's spine. What? Kaelstrom's jaw clenched. He released her arm, taking a single step back. When he spoke again, his voice was hollow. I knew what you were the moment we found you on that riverbank 18 years ago. The world tilted. What? Moonrend. The word fell from his lips like a curse. You're the lost heir of the Moonrend bloodline. The last surviving daughter of the clan the Ironfang Council slaughtered to claim these territories. Sable couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The corridor spun around her. No, I'm an Omega. I was born. You were born a princess. Kaelstrom cut her off, his voice sharp and bitter. Born to a bloodline older and more powerful than Ironfang could ever claim. A bloodline rumored to carry magic that could command not just wolves, but thrones themselves. The crown's whisper echoed in her memory. Blood of the lost line. The council ordered the massacre. Kaelstrom continued, his words coming faster now like a dam breaking. Every Moonrend had to die, men, women, children. We burned your fortress. Slaughtered your warriors. Erased your clan from history. Sable's legs gave out. She slid down the wall, her hands shaking violently. But you survived, Kaelstrom said. A 7-year-old girl pulled from the river 3 days later. The council wanted you killed immediately. I was ordered to make you disappear. He crouched before her, and for the first time in 18 years, he looked at her, really looked at her like she was a person instead of furniture. So I branded you Omega, he whispered. The lowest caste. Invisible. Voiceless. I made sure no one would ever look at you twice. Made sure you'd be forgotten. Because if anyone realized who you were, if anyone knew the Moonrend line still lived, understanding crashed over Sable like ice water. You let them treat me like nothing, she breathed. You let them beat me. Brand me. 18 years of. Her voice broke. You knew, and you let them destroy me to protect Ironfang's claim to power. Kaelstrom's expression hardened. I protected your life. You stole my identity. The words exploded from Sable. 18 years of silence shattering. You took everything I was and buried it so deep I forgot I was ever human. I kept you alive. Enough. The new voice cut through the corridor like a blade through silk. Both of them turned. Lumina stood at the corridor's entrance, backlit by torchlight, her red gown trailing behind her like spilled blood. But her perfect composure was gone. Her pale face twisted with rage, her hands trembling. So the little Omega has a bloodline, Lumina said, her voice dripping venom as she stepped closer. How touching. How utterly irrelevant. Sable tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. Kaelstrom rose slowly, positioning himself between them. Lumina, this doesn't concern me? Lumina's laugh was sharp and brittle. That thing just humiliated me in front of the entire Dominion. The crown rejected me. The throne bowed to her. She took another step forward and Sable saw it, the glint of metal in Lumina's hand. A knife. Long curved, etched with runes that glowed faintly red. I had a contingency plan, Lumina whispered, her smile cold and terrible. In case the throne ever chose poorly. The runes pulsed brighter. If the throne won't choose me, Lumina raised the blade, pointing it directly at Sable's heart. Then it won't choose anyone. Hit subscribe if you believe no one should have their identity stolen to serve someone else's agenda. Comment truth over power. If you can't stand people who bury others to protect themselves. Only those who side with corruption won't. Lumina moved faster than Sable thought possible. Before Kaelstrom could react, before Sable could even scream, Lumina grabbed her by the hair and yanked, dragging her down the corridor with inhuman strength. Lumina, stop! Kaelstrom's shout echoed behind them, but Lumina didn't stop. She hauled Sable through a hidden doorway, down ancient stone steps that spiraled deeper and deeper beneath the fortress. Each step sent jolts of pain through Sable's body as she was dragged like a piece of meat. They emerged into a chamber Sable had never seen, concealed beneath the throne hall itself. The air here tasted old. Wrong. The walls were carved with runes that seemed to writhe in the torchlight, symbols that hurt to look at directly. Lumina threw Sable to the ground. Her head cracked against stone, vision blurring. Do you know what this place is? Lumina's voice echoed through the chamber, cold and sharp. She circled Sable like a predator. This is where the council erases mistakes, where bloodlines that threaten Ironfang's power are corrected. Sable tried to crawl backward, but her body wouldn't obey. Her head spun. Blood trickled warm down her temple. Lumina crouched before her, the runed knife gleaming in her hand. The severing ritual. Ancient magic designed to cut away ancestral claims, to burn bloodlines from existence. Please, Sable's voice came out broken. I don't want the throne. I don't want any of this. Too late. Lumina pressed the blade's tip against Sable's chest, right over her heart. The crown chose you. The throne bowed. You humiliated me. Made me look weak. The runes on the walls began to glow, pulsing red like infected wounds. And for that, Lumina whispered, you need to be unmade. She sliced the blade across her own palm. Blood welled, dripping onto the stone floor where it hissed and steamed. The runes blazed brighter, spreading across the chamber like veins of fire. The ritual had begun. Pain exploded through Sable's body. Not physical pain, deeper. Like something was reaching inside her veins and ripping. She screamed, her back arching as agony tore through every nerve. It felt like her blood was boiling, like invisible hands were shredding her apart from the inside. The runes climbed up her arms, burning red against her skin. Her Omega brand seared white-hot. Stop! Kaelstrom's voice crashed through the chamber. Through tears of agony, Sable saw him in the doorway, saw the horror on his face as he watched her writhe on the floor. Lumina, this is madness. This is necessity, Lumina snarled, her hand glowing with red magic as she channeled more power into the ritual. She threatens everything we've built. Everything the council sacrificed to create. Sable's screams turned raw. The pain intensified, something essential inside her being slowly severed. She could feel it, her connection to that ancient whisper, that bloodline magic being cut away piece by piece. Kaelstrom took a step forward, then stopped. Doubt cracked across his face, the authoritarian mask fracturing. His hands trembled at his sides. I never wanted this, he whispered, so quietly Sable almost didn't hear it over her own screaming. But he didn't move to stop it. The runes reached Sable's chest, wrapping around her heart like burning chains. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The world narrowed to nothing but pain. And then, something pushed back. Deep inside her, where the ritual's magic clawed and tore, something ancient surged to life. Silver light exploded behind Sable's eyes. In the throne hall above, the iron crown erupted with blinding radiance. Warriors stumbled back, shielding their eyes. The crown lifted from the floor, spinning, screaming with power. The throne roared. A sound like 100 blades being drawn at once. The massive seat shuddered violently, cracks spiderwebbing across the stone beneath it. In the chamber below, Sable's eyes snapped open. They glowed pure silver. The Moonrend power, buried for 18 years, suppressed and hidden and nearly destroyed, awakened. Magic detonated outward from Sable's body like a shockwave. The red runes shattered, dissolving into ash. Lumina's ritual collapsed, the severing magic torn apart by something older, stronger, righteous. The chamber's walls cracked. Stone groaned. Dust rained from the ceiling. Sable rose. Not by her own strength. Lifted by a tidal wave of ancestral power that surged through her veins like liquid moonlight. Her hair whipped around her face in an invisible wind. The Omega brand on her shoulder blazed silver, transforming. Her voice, normally soft, broken by 18 years of silence, boomed with authority that shook the foundations. Kneel. It wasn't a shout. It wasn't even a command. It was a law. Ancient. Absolute. Undeniable. Kaelstrom's legs buckled instantly. He crashed to his knees, unable to fight the power in that single word. His eyes went wide with shock and terror. Lumina's scream cut short as the magic ripped through her. She collapsed, the runed knife clattering from her hand, her body forced into submission by power she couldn't comprehend. Above, in the throne hall, every warrior, every beta, every elder, all of them dropped to their knees in perfect synchronization. Hundreds of bodies hitting stone in a single thunderous moment. The crown exploded upward through the chamber floor in a blast of silver light and screaming metal. Stone shattered. Debris flew. The crown rose through the destruction, spinning, blazing with ancient magic that had waited 18 years to reclaim its true heir. It hovered before Sable, humming with recognition. Waiting. Choosing. Subscribe if you believe power should belong to those who were stolen from, not those who did the stealing. Comment justice will rise. If you stand against people who erase others to protect their own throne. Only the corrupt and cowardly won't. Dust settled through shafts of silver light. The chamber fell silent except for the sound of labored breathing. Sable's, Kaelstrom's, Lumina's ragged gasps from where she lay crumpled on the shattered floor. The iron crown hovered before Sable, spinning slowly, humming with a frequency she felt in her bones. Ancient runes blazed across its surface, casting dancing shadows on the cracked walls. Up close, she could see the individual blades that formed it, each one etched with names of the alphas who'd fallen to forge it. But beneath those names, older markings. Moonrend symbols. Her clan's magic, woven into the crown's very essence. It had been waiting. All this time. Waiting for her. Through the gaping hole in the ceiling, Sable could see into the throne hall above. The massive iron seat had turned completely toward the opening, bowing so deeply its blades nearly touched the floor. Every warrior, every beta, every elder remained on their knees, heads bowed, trembling, waiting for her choice. The crown pulsed with silver light and Sable understood. She could feel it in the connection thrumming between them, what it was offering. Accept me. Take what was stolen. Reclaim your birthright. Or walk away. Let the crown fall. Let Ironfang collapse into chaos without a Luna. Without leadership. Without the ancient magic that held it together. Let them destroy themselves the way they destroyed her family. Her hands trembled. 18 years of pain, of humiliation, of being treated like she was less than human. All of it screamed for revenge. For justice. For them to suffer the way she had suffered. Sable. Kaelstrom's voice was broken. Hello. She looked down. The mighty Alpha of Ironfang knelt before her in the rubble. Head bowed, shoulders shaking. When he raised his eyes to meet hers, she saw something she'd never seen before. Shame. I'm sorry. The words came out choked. I'm so sorry. I told myself I was protecting you. That hiding your identity was mercy. But the truth, his voice cracked. The truth is I chose fear over what was right. I chose Ironfang's power over your humanity. Tears tracked through the dust on his face. Lumina was chosen to maintain political alliances with the northern territories. To strengthen our borders. To make us powerful. He laughed bitterly. But the crown knew. It always knew she wasn't meant for this. That you were. Sable's throat tightened. Part of her, the part that was still 7 years old and drowning in a river while her mother died, wanted him to suffer. Wanted to watch him break the way she'd been broken. But another part, deeper and older, whispered something different. You are not him. You are Moonrend. And Moonrend does not rule through cruelty. No. Lumina's scream shattered the moment. She lunged from the floor with desperate speed, hand outstretched toward the crown. Her perfect face twisted with rage and terror. It's mine. I was chosen. The crown blazed. Silver lightning cracked outward, striking Lumina mid-leap. Her body convulsed, then crumpled, hitting the floor unconscious before she could touch the ancient metal. Smoke rose from where the magic had burned through her gown. The crown returned to its position before Sable, humming patiently. Kaelstrom hadn't moved. "The choice is yours," he whispered. "It always should have been." Sable stared at the crown. At this impossible, terrible, perfect symbol of everything that had been stolen from her. Her heart hammered against her ribs. What would her mother want? The memory surfaced unbidden. Her mother's silver eyes, fierce and loving, whispering through blood-stained lips. "You are more than they will ever let you be." Not were. Are. Present tense. As if her mother had known, even dying, that Sable would survive. Would have to choose who she would become. Sable took a breath. Then another. She reached out with trembling hands. The moment her fingers touched the crown, warmth flooded through her. Not burning, welcoming. Like coming home after 18 years of exile. The metal hummed against her palms and she felt it. Generations of Moonrend power, flowing through the iron, recognizing her blood, her bones, her rightful claim. She didn't lift the crown to her head. She didn't need to. The crown rose on its own, floating upward with gentle purpose. Sable's breath caught as it positioned itself above her, spinning slowly, runes blazing brighter and brighter until it lowered. The moment the iron touched her brow, the world exploded with light. Silver radiance burst outward in a shockwave that shook the fortress to its foundations. The Moonrend legacy, suppressed for 18 years, nearly severed by Lumina's ritual, buried under lies and brands and cruelty, awakened fully. Power surged through Sable's veins like wildfire. Every cell in her body ignited with ancestral magic. The Omega brand on her shoulder dissolved, replaced by the silver-eyed wolf sigil of her true bloodline. Her eyes blazed like captured moonlight. Above in the throne hall, the massive iron seat straightened, then bowed even deeper, acknowledging, accepting, celebrating its true Luna. And one by one, every person in the hall pressed their foreheads to the floor. Warriors who'd ignored her for 18 years. Betas who'd kicked her aside in corridors. Elders who'd pretended she didn't exist. Commander Thorn who'd beaten her for breathing wrong. All of them bowing. In the chamber below, Kaelstrom lowered his head until his forehead touched the rubble-strewn floor. "Luna Sable Moonrend," he whispered, his voice carrying through the sudden silence. "Rightful ruler of Ironfang, I bow to you." The crown settled fully onto Sable's head, warm and right in hers. And for the first time in 18 years she stood tall. Hit subscribe if you believe the stolen deserve their justice, and the silenced deserve their voice. Comment, "Long live the true Luna." If you stand with those who rise despite everything trying to break them. Only those who bow to corruption won't. The throne hall had never been this silent. Sable climbed the shattered steps from the ritual chamber, the iron crown gleaming on her brow, silver light trailing behind her like a living cloak. Every eye tracked her movement. Every breath held. The elders were the first to break. One by one they stepped forward, ancient wolves who'd sat on the council for decades, who'd ordered the Moonrend massacre, who'd looked the other way while a child princess was branded and broken. "Luna Moonrend," the eldest spoke, his voice trembling. We did not know. You knew." Sable's voice cut through his excuse like a blade. Not loud. Not angry. Just true. "You knew a child survived the massacre. You knew Kaelstrom branded her Omega. You chose silence over justice because it was convenient." The elder's head dropped. Shame painted his weathered face. "And now you will live with that choice," Sable continued, her silver eyes sweeping across them all. "Just as I lived with yours." The warriors came next. Commander Thorn, who'd beaten her for looking him in the eye, knelt with his fist over his heart. "My blade is yours, Luna," he said, though his voice shook. "My life, my loyalty, my—" "Your apology," Sable interrupted quietly, "is 18 years too late. But your service—" She paused, letting the weight settle. "Your service I will accept. Ironfang needs warriors. It needs protectors. But it will never again need oppressors." One by one they swore allegiance. Voices that had dismissed her, hands that had shoved her aside, eyes that had looked through her like glass, all of them bending, finally seeing her. But there was one voice missing. Sable turned toward where Kaelstrom still knelt in the rubble of the ritual chamber entrance. He hadn't moved. hadn't spoken since his initial surrender. She descended the dais steps, the crowd parting before her like water. Her footsteps echoed in the vast silence until she stood directly before the Alpha who'd stolen everything from her. "Look at me," she said softly. Kaelstrom raised his head. The mighty Alpha of Ironfang looked broken. Eyes red, face pale, authority stripped away to reveal the guilt beneath. "You stole my childhood." Sable's voice remained steady, though emotions churned beneath. "You stole my identity, my family, my name. You let them brand me, beat me, treat me like I was less than human. For 18 years you watched me suffer and did nothing. I know." His voice was hollow. "I know, and there is no forgiveness for. I'm not finished." The crown's light pulsed. "You told yourself it was mercy, protection. But the truth is you were a coward. You chose the easy path, the one where you didn't have to stand up to the council, didn't have to risk your position, didn't have to do what was right." Kaelstrom's shoulders shook. He reached up slowly, deliberately, and pulled aside the collar of his coat, exposing his throat. "The ultimate submission. An offering. Then take your justice, Luna," he whispered. "My life for the one I stole from you." Sable stared at the vulnerable flesh, at the pulse beating there. One word from her and the warriors would end him. One command and she could have the revenge she dreamed of during those long, brutal years. But she thought of her mother, of the Moonrend legacy, of the kind of Luna she wanted to become. "No," she said quietly. "You'll live, Kaelstrom. You'll live and serve Ironfang under my rule. You'll live and watch me transform everything you built on lies into something true. That is your punishment, to see what you could have chosen, every single day." She turned away. A commotion erupted behind her. Lumina, conscious now, dragged to her feet by two warriors, thrashed against their grip. "This is wrong," she screamed, voice ragged and desperate. "The throne made a mistake. She's nobody. An Omega, a servant." The throne growled. An actual sound, metal grinding, blades shifting, ancient magic vibrating through stone. A warning so primal that Lumina's words died in her throat. Sable didn't even turn around. "Lumina Northcross, you are banished from Ironfang. You have 24 hours to leave these territories. If you return, the throne's judgment will not be so merciful." "You can't." "I can." Sable finally looked back, and the power in her silver eyes made Lumina stumble. "I am Luna of Ironfang, heir of Moonrend, and you are dismissed." The warriors dragged Lumina away, her protests fading into echoes. Sable returned to the dais, the throne straightening as she approached, blades gleaming in the firelight. She didn't sit yet. She had one more thing to do. "As my first command as Luna," her voice rang through the hall, clear and absolute, "I abolish the Omega caste system." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Warriors exchanged shocked glances. Elders' eyes went wide. "From this moment forward," Sable continued, "there will be no Omegas, no Betas, no hierarchy based on birth. We are all wolves of Ironfang. We all serve. We all matter. We are all equal." The hall erupted. Some in protest, some in stunned silence, some in hesitant, disbelieving hope. But the throne hummed its approval, and the crown blazed brighter. Below, Kaelstrom looked up at her, this woman he'd tried to erase, and whispered words only she could hear. "You were never an Omega." Sable met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "No," she said softly, "but you always were a coward." She turned to face her people, her dominion now. The crown gleamed on her brow, alive and choosing her with every breath. The throne bowed slightly as she finally approached it, ancient blades shifting in recognition. And from somewhere in the crowd, a single voice called out, "Luna Sable Moonrend." Then another, and another, until the entire hall thundered with it. "Luna Sable Moonrend. Luna Sable Moonrend. Luna Sable Moonrend." The girl who'd been forced to kneel, who'd been branded and broken and buried alive in silence, stood tall before the throne that had bowed to her instead. A new moon rose over Ironfang. A new era began. And nothing would ever be the same. Subscribe to Silver Moon Chronicles if you believe the broken can rise, the silence can speak, and the stolen can reclaim what was always theirs. Comment: "A new moon rises if you stand with those who refuse to stay down." This is just the beginning of the Moonrend legacy, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Sweet, you made it to the end with me. I can't tell you how much that means. Seriously. In a world where everyone scrolls past everything, you stayed. You watched Sable rise from the ashes. You witnessed her reclaim everything they tried to steal. And honestly, that says something beautiful about you. You're the kind of person who believes broken things can be made whole again. Who roots for the underdog. Who understands that the silence deserves to finally speak. Now, I have something special waiting for you. Another story. Another soul fighting their way back to the light. And trust me when I say this next one, it's even more intense. More emotional. The kind of story that'll have you holding your breath and your heart at the same time. Click the image on your screen right now. Don't let this feeling end. Keep it going with me. Oh, and one more thing, love. I've been pouring my heart into these stories, and sometimes I wonder, where are you? Where in this big, beautiful world are you watching from right now? If you haven't told me yet, drop your city or country in the comments. Register your presence. Let me know you're real. That you're here with me on this journey. Because every comment, every name, every place you share, it reminds me why I do this. So don't be a stranger, beautiful. Tell me where you're watching from. Click that next story. And let's keep rising together. I'll see you there.